Now, if you are struggling against the Sicilian Kan variation, then not to worry, because after watching this video, you are going to equip with a tricky line which you can really employ in the tournament practice. After e4 and c5, the Sicilian Kan variation arises with the following move order: knight to f3, e6, d4, c captures d4, knight captures d4, and now black plays this typical idea a6, trademark of the Kan variation. Okay, here we are going to continue with Maroczy bind setup, and that start with c4. So idea is you put the bind on the d5 square, and accordingly, if you look at the database, there are few popular choices. In our case, it doesn't matter because black can play either of this move, the resulting position reach to the same junction. So for example, knight to f6, knight to c3, bishop to b4, and at this position, by far the most popular choice is bishop to d3, defending the e-pawn. However, my recommendation is you play this very tricky move, and that is queen to d3, not only defending your e-pawn but setting up a nice platform for our upcoming tricks and traps. Okay, it's time to look at the database, and obvious enough, black has tried these three options, and we are going to look each by turn and find out how we are going to surprise black and get the early winning positions. The first move I want to consider is bad move, namely bishop captures c3. So black's idea is he is destroying your pawn structure, but in return he has some now huge problem on those dark squares, and if he thinks that d6 resolve all his problem, which is in fact database top choice, I'm afraid it's not enough, as after bishop to a3 and castle, white has this lethal move e5, and that more or less get the winning position. You are losing the d pawn, and as per the engine, the base sequence goes as follow: pawn takes e5, bishop takes f8, queen takes f8, and after our knight to b3, yes indeed, at just 12th move of the game, white obtained the exchange, and with some accurate play, this game can definitely convert it into the full point. The second move I want to consider is queen to c7, which has a clear idea to stop our e5 advancement. And against this, I am going to show you one of the most trickiest line in this variation, which start with a3. And the point is, after bishop takes c3, it looks like white has to take back with the pawn as his e4 pawn is hanging. But guess what? Nope, we are going to take with the queen, setting up a very trappy platform. Of course, if black castle here, then we can defend our e-pawn with a very good game. So more or less, if you look at the database, black has exclusively take this pawn, thinking that oops, white has blundered. But the matter of fact is, after this, black is by force losing the game. So before I move on guys, I want you to pause the video and find out that killer sequence which can finish off the black. Did you find it? Let's check. The golden move here is knight to b5. What a move! And the point is, first of all, black cannot take our queen in the view of knight takes e7, king to e7, and after knight takes 8 and the move knight to e4, if you count the material, it is white who emerged with an extra rook just within the opening stage. So that's the reason why knight captures c3 is completely out of the equation at this position. That means, more or less, black has to take this knight. But then our task is very simple. First, we take on g7, attacking the rook. Black has to save the rook. Now you play bishop to h6, once again attacking the rook and threatening checkmate. So by force, black has to defend the rook with queen to c5. And we reach to the point where if you play just one right move, then game can be finished instantly. Do you want to try out? Please pause the video and go ahead, buddy. I'm showing you right now. Just look at this. f3. And after this, no matter however black wriggles, he get a completely lost position. Okay, black has three choices, but neither of them are working. Number one, if you play knight to f2, looks like counter-attacking your rook. But unfortunately, after white's next reply, that is b4, that queen is an overload piece. And of course, black has to save the mate. So queen to e7, and then what else? You grab the piece. And the fun doesn't end here, guys, because after some natural moves, pawn takes c4, bishop takes c4, and in the next turn we are going to take the rook no matter whatever happens. So for example, knight to c6, queen takes f8, queen takes f8, bishop takes f8, and king takes f8. The dust is clear, and at the end, one can easily say that it is white who has come out with a whole exchange up and a completely dominating position. Okay, what about the more natural move, queen to f2 check? But it is just one check, as after king to d1, now you have a bigger problem, and that is we are threatening a checkmate as well as trying to capture your knight, and black cannot defend both the threat. So by force, the queen has to go back in order to protect the rook. But that leads to the same story. F captures e4, B captures c4. Now of course you take the rook, and after the forcing sequence, queen takes, bishop takes, king takes, and bishop takes c4. What else? Again and again, it is white who get winning position with a clear exchange up. Last but not least, engine's top recommendation here is to play the move knight to f6 and give back the piece. But then you have some huge problem on the dark squares. And after rook to g8, I like to show you a model game from the database where white continue with pawn takes b5. Look at those dark squares, extremely weak. So black thought, hang on, I need to exchange the queen. But white was completely on a driver's seat, so of course he denied it. And the problem from the black side is his pieces cannot come out, and we are attacking on this poor c8 bishop, so black response is almost forced. He has to go queen back to d8. Afterwards, I really like white's next move, and that is bishop to g7, planning to come on f6. And even though it looks so simple, it is very deadly, and in fact, the game finished after just two moves. Black plays d5, white plays bishop to f6, and after queen to d7, rook to c1, and what else? The clear resignation, as the poor c8 bishop did not see a daylight before he died. Last but not least, what happens if your opponent continue with knight to c6, which is database chop choice. And in this line, I am going to show you one of the most high profile trap, and that goes with the following variation. Knight takes c6, pawn takes c6. Now you exchange the queen and then play your trademark move e5. where if the knight moves anywhere, then we can support our e pawn with the f pawn, and we get a space in the center with the misplaced king. But as you look at the database, the top choice is, why not play knight to e4 and double attack the c3 knight? Looks very obvious, right? And yes, indeed, this is exactly white wants, as black has straight away fallen into white trappy territory, and the trappy business start with a3, bishop takes c3, pawn takes c3, and of course black has given up the bishop pair and weakened the dark square, but the point is he has won an important pawn. So it looks like black is doing good. But the big time problem is, after white's next reply, a4, black is in a huge trouble. In some lines, we are going to trap that knight. So sooner or later, black knight has to escape with the e4 square. But here comes the whole point. We play bishop to e3, and our task is very easy. On the next move, we want to play f3, and would you believe that can actually trap the centralized knight? The best black can do over here is to play h6, so at least he's giving the escape route for the knight. But white says, nope sweetie, you cannot escape, so the h4 is a logical response. Whereupon black is forced to find the only move which can keep him in the game. Now before I show you a model game, just look at the engine evaluation here. It says black is completely losing, and to highlight what is the problem, I have picked an high profile game from the FIDE database where both the players are in excess of 2200, and here black find the accurate response, namely f5. So his idea is pretty clear. If you play f3, then my knight can escape from the g3 square. So white prevent this by playing rook to h3, indeed threatening f3, something black cannot avoid it. So he continue with king to e7, and his idea is after the move f3, he want to deliver this counter punch f4. Okay, white just took the pawn and allow the knight to escape. But see yourself how pathetic black position can become after this. Rook to g3, attacking on g7, king to f7. Now comes another attacking move, bishop to e3. So knight has to go back. And after this, the star move of the game is a5, completely paralyzing black on the queen side. Well, I think black is already frustrated in this position as he continue with knight captures e5, a big blunder, as after this, white instantly get a completely winning position, and that start with bishop to e5, knight to g6, h5, knight to f8, rook captures g7, whereupon after king to e8 and bishop to d3, sorry, but I can't stop laughing here, as black's every piece on the back rank, and just look at the engine evaluation. It says it is just a matter of time before black has to give up the game. So I think this model game gives you a great illustration how dangerous white position can become if black fall for our dangerous trap. That's it guys, I hope you enjoy and learn this high profile tricky line against the Sicilian Kan variation. Remember, after our queen to d3, no matter however black plays, against all this line, as I have shown in this video, we have some nasty tricks on the table. And the good point I like about this line is, even though let's say your opponent doesn't fall for tricks and traps, white still obtain a decent position and all the chances in the upcoming middle game. Well, thank you for watching this video. Feel free to like, subscribe and comment, and I will see you in my next episode very soon. Bye and take care.